So we shall go for module 3, reviewing of literature, right? Okay. This model focused on the technique of doing literature review, right? In this training, we'll show you the very detailed one, but of course, practically, we can sometimes skip a bit, or we try to take some easy way out. It's okay, right? As long as you fulfill the minimum requirement of a journal or minimum requirement of your thesis for postgraduate student. Okay? It covers applying, searching, analyzing, and then writing the literature review. Okay. Firstly, before we start, this is the 4 topics that we have covered under literature review. That is, you see, applying, searching, systematic literature review, and writing. Before we start, literature review is writing something that has been done in the past, right? But it's not a summary and then cut and paste a few sentences from each one, right? It's more like you are telling other people, right, what others have done, in what direction they have done, right? And therefore, there is a literature gap, right, where it's important but not yet done, right? And that literature gap actually at which part, right? For example, later on we go for some example, so systematic literature. Okay, we start with the first one, applying literature review. Can I move already my slide? Okay. Why we want to do a literature review? Because it will broaden our knowledge base, right? Let's say we want to do a topic. Regardless of what topic, I believe that even though you not apply only in economics, business, finance, you will apply in science, engineering, psychology, linguistics, right? You need to know more than only you can find the issue and you can present your view and findings and implication better. So by doing a lot of literature review, that means you search, read, and view the literature, you broaden our knowledge. Then we have become more expertise on the area that we are going to write our paper or our thesis. Then you apply literature review will link the proposed research to what has already been studied. As I mentioned just now, for example, let's say you want to study trade balance and exchange rate. When you apply the literature, or if you always teach economics, then you know that there is a theory called Marshall-Lerner condition. Then you see whether this theory or this hypothesis has been tested in any other country, how it has been tested, they use what method, right? Then from all this past literature, you can see what is the gap that they're still pending. Maybe, for example, this theory may not be applicable now, right? As some criticize that, this theory actually based on a lot of assumption, right? The assumption, for example, is based on the good is standardized, homogeneous, is tradable, but sometimes some goods are not really, elasticity is very inelastic. For example, you cannot replace your handphone, your iPhone with a local phone, because local we don't have phone, or you cannot simply replace your Samsung or iPhone with other different brand phone, right? You cannot simply replace Microsoft program with another program. So sometimes in this case, you see when the assumption you think is wrong, right? Then you open a literature gap, and you must make sure that nobody has done before. Right. In the last week also we mentioned that why we must do a thorough literature study, because you may have a very good idea, you may have a very good research gap, then it's a very interesting topic, very nice objective, but maybe unfortunately other people have done it maybe few years ago, right? So there's a need to go through literature very, very extensively, and of course here we'll present you a very systematic to search through all the literature to make sure that what you have done has not been done before. What you are going to do have not been done before. Okay. So applying literature also bring clarity to research problem. Right? Just now you show that there's a problem, right? Usually when you read other literature, later on we see how to read the literature faster. The literature or past paper itself actually do mention some recommendation for future studies, or their limitation, or the assumption that they use. And this assumption that they use may not be correct. They themselves may think it's not correct, but of course, you have to have some assumption. So when you think the assumption is not correct, then you have a good research problem. Theory and method. Some actually, when you teach research method, sometimes your student will always ask you, I didn't study much, right? I don't know much. So how do I get the theory? And then last week also got people ask, I say you just use Google or ChatGPT, right? But another method is you search your keywords, you find past literature review. Then if you find a good paper, they will also mention the theory. Then from there, you know, oh, which theory is actually relevant or which theory is actually must mention based on your research topic and research objective. So here you're doing a literature review actually give you a lot of benefit as well. Right? But you need to spend a lot of time to do this one, right? Integrate your research finding into an existing body of knowledge. I mentioned people have done others aspect, except for one aspect you have not done. So your research proposal or your research paper actually plan to fill in this gap, and this gap is actually at where? Right? Search the literature. There are some useful shortcut later I'll tell you, right? First, we have to set the parameter where you want to search, because you may end up with 100,000 of literature, a lot, right? For example, you wish to search a literature from which year to which year. For some good journal publication, they need you to have very, very recent years. For example, now it's 2024. For me, I will set as about 5 or 6 years. That means if you exclude, now it's only July, that means we can exclude 2024. I mean, 2023, 2022, 21, 2020, and 2019. So you may want to set a parameter. Okay, for the year you set 2019 until current, or 2024, the latest. And you may also set some keyword, or you want to set only economics or social science, right? Or maybe in chemical engineering only, right? So you set a parameter, then key in the keyword. Of course, many of us will know that your keyword you can use and or all these things. You set a parameter, then compile a reading list. Here, many people got different way to do. For me, for my practical, really what I do is I search a keyword, set a parameter, what year, and then let's say for example I want to search trade balance, and then institutional quality. So I set everything. When I enter search, you will come out a lot. Be careful when we search for literature in whatever search, let's say Scopus, Google Scholar, whatever. Try not to be extremely rigid or extremely specific. What I mean is you try to search for a general term first. For example, you cannot search at trade balance, inequality, inequality, income, GDP, all are and. So it's very hard to match. Right? So you search for general term first, then after that you come up with a lot, maybe in thousand. So what I do is I read the title first. So see some of the shortcut. I read the title first. If I think the title is match or look okay, just look okay. Of course, in my laptop, I'll open a folder, right? If I search from Scopus, I put Scopus search 01, right? I put a folder. So if I think the title is okay, then I'll copy the title, copy maybe part of the title. Sometimes title very long, copy part of the title. Then I click open the journal paper, the literature. Imagine, let's say that it can be downloaded, it's publicly available. So I download the paper, I save. So the file name for the literature, I put the title name. Okay, the title name. For example, I think I have some journal. Let's say the journal paper is hello, good morning, right? Then how do you do? So long. So I just put maybe hello, good morning as my title. So when I download the thing, I put the paper topic or title name as my file name. So next time it's easier to refer. So you save first. When you think the topic is okay, right? Look reasonable. You click and see. If you are still not convinced enough, don't read the whole paper. Just read the abstract and the keyword. You read the abstract, you think 50-50 may be relevant to what you want or may not be relevant to what you want, then just take it. Just download, because you can download as many as you like. It's free of charge, right? So you download. You open and then you see the abstract is completely different from what you want, then just ignore, right? Therefore, you save a lot first. Usually, you save about 50 to 100 because let's say you save 100 literature review, you may only use 20 only, right? So you need to save a lot. The rest you just can delete or whatever, right? Because download more is better than download less, right? So you compile a reading list, you just open the literature, see the name, okay, or you still not convinced enough, you can see the abstract. No need to read all the paper. If you think want to still go more further, you can see the findings or the method, right? The variable. If it's okay, or 50-50, or even 40% might be okay, then you just download. Then use the topic name as your file name. Then you compile a list, then just let it like that. Later on, when you start, then you only use to filter one by one, then you only start to read in more detail. Yeah? Now, literature source, in this case, it's preferable that you search from a credible source. Here in academic world, we have this so-called Scopus Index, then Web of Science Index, right? Or in Malaysia, we still acknowledge the My Site Index, right? Therefore, you can use Google Scholar to search. You can search in Google, right? You search in ChatGPT, but the more preferable one will be search in this so-called Scopus and Web of Science lah, right? Usually, many university, including UTA, they got subscribe to Scopus, but Web of Science may be difficult a bit. Okay? So these are some of the useful shortcut that I mentioned, right? You just read the topic and then abstract and keywords. No need to read the whole paper first. You compile a reading list first. You can download 100 paper, 50 paper easily, but you have to sit down on your laptop maybe for 1 hour or half hours. Then one by one you scan, and then you download everything first without reading in detail. After that, only you start to filter one by one. Then there is a more systematic literature review where usually we will not apply this one into such a detail unless we plan to write a paper based on literature review as well. Here in the material that I upload, the other material I got upload 2 file, 2 article. One is this one. Another one is a paper which I think is very good based on literature review only. Usually paper we are based on empirical finding, run the regression, and then imply a result. But that one is just based on literature review. So if your paper is focused on literature review, then you have to become more detailed. Or otherwise, this one can be used also as guide, right? So they officially got this called SALSA and P-SALSA, right? Here have a protocol to determine the scope. Like here, you set the parameter, right? Then you search, define the string, what keyword you need to put in, right? You can use the and or all this parameter, all these words, right? Identify the database. As I mentioned, usually you try to get from Scopus or Web of Science, but sometimes it's very difficult because it's limited. Most of those papers sometimes are locked. You need subscription based, depend on your university subscription, right? Collect the document. Appraisal, selecting studies, and quality assessment. Later, I'll show you the article. Right? Synthesis, you extract, then only evaluate. Right? Report summarized in a table form. Here we will show you everything. Right? But have to remember, literature review is not a cut and paste of the summary of the literature. Right? It's like a storytelling. For example, you want to highlight, for example, like say, I highlight that when I do sustainable development goal, I use the SDG index. I want to firstly highlight that many people so-called do topic on sustainable development, but they use a wrong conception of sustainable development. Why? Because they think sustainable development equal to just pollution. Therefore, some of these people use carbon dioxide emission, air pollution, then water pollution, and whatever pollution, and they term it as sustainable development. So I give example. Okay, this one. Or they may sometimes term sustainable development as just equality. right? So for example, these people, this topic, this person, this journal use the inequality as a proxy for sustainable development, right? So you see, it's a story, right? Those literature that you quote or in your literature review, you not say that, oh, A and B 2024 do this one, some this one, C and D 2023 do this one and this one, F and G and H do this one, use this method. So it's not a summary or a cut and paste like that. You treat it as the storytelling, but with a quote, a citation, right? What you want to tell. For example, just now I say I want to show that other people quote the sustainable development or proxy for sustainable development is wrong, right? It's a very narrow scope of sustainable development. For example, it's like that. Right? So something like that, right? It's like a storytelling, not a cut and paste. Yeah? Okay. Before we continue, I show you this paper. Wait, I show these two paper. I have to unshare this screen first. This is the paper I quote inside. Can see, right? Right?
Yes,
It's
Prabha
a
can
very,
see.
very, yeah, good, thanks. Very, very systematic. As I mentioned before, sometimes it may not be need to be so systematic lah. So you'll be very systematic. You notice that the PAUSA framework protocol. Of course, the topic they want is the method for conducting systematic literature review and methods on environment science research, right? So the focus topic is environment science research. Depend on what we want. So you see this one. Protocol define the scope of study, only the mountain ecosystem, right? Environmental science can be many, many things. I think some of our participants here are also from science, engineering, chemical engineering, and science. So they are one mountain ecosystem only. And various ecosystem service, right? No, searching string, later still got appraiser, no, synthetic, extract data, extract template, then method. They give you a lot of the analysis. So these are a very systematic. You can follow exactly the same thing. If you are doing a PhD thesis or you want to publish in a Q1 ranking journal, right? So you have to show that you have a complete literature review search. Otherwise, when your paper submitted, a reviewer go and read your paper, they notice that, oh, there are 3 important paper for this topic, but you cite none of them. So this shows that your literature review search is not complete, right? There are some paper that quite influential in a particular topic, and if they found that you didn't cite any of that, right, then show that, or some more you say there is nobody done a research that is similar to mine. Well, then they will show you back. I have found at least one article that done similar to you, as for example, like this. So in this case, you show something wrong with your literature review search, right? So all these are the example. You see in a more detail also the concept, how they do population, the SLR location, all this, right? Scope, okay, scope database. There are 5 scopers: Science Direct, and then Google Scholar. So how they search the keyword, they put mountain ecosystem and services. So you see they use the and or, right? So number of articles when they search, right? So these are very, very systematic search, right? For those who do a bibliographic paper also can use something like that. So they can show that how many articles in here from Scopus, how many articles here. Of course, you can also see from which country, which is the most popular author under this topic or under this research area. Okay? So you can see on how this one, so what is included, what is excluded. Paper that are duplicated with the search document, of course, is excluded, right? So appraiser is a very, very detailed thing, right? That you can see year of publication criteria used. So you see year of publication between what year to what year. As a general guideline, I would say you use about 5 to 6 years. If today is December 2024, that means you may want to count 2024 as your 1 year. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 2020. So you search from 2020 to 2024, right? If today is about July, then you may want to start from, okay, 2019 to 2024, right? It's up to you. You search from the most recent first. After that, then you only search general, right? So name of the journal, no. So type of the data, either use primary, secondary, so method, right? All these are very, very detailed and systematic search. Okay, beside this one, I want to show you another paper, another example. These two example also I uploaded in a material file. You can find the material file, right? Wait, in the Google Drive, inside there, you have these two paper. Sometimes we need all this as a long-term reference, right? When we do it, then we can see how. Can you see another paper? This paper is mostly on literature, but they focus on empirical literature. In normal paper, we should have empirical and theoretical paper to, right? But since this one is focused on empirical literature, you can guess that they are extensively do the literature into such a good this is such a good paper lah. So you see, you can see, right, the new paper. A brief background on it. See, they are like, if you read this paper, they are like telling you a story, right? The difference is their story have citation only. So it's not like cut and paste. They even, you see, they even, how to say, categorize or link the literature into such a way like a value added, right? See, can I make it bigger? They see aid for trade is a main topic. So there's try to categorize the literature into how aid for trade for economic infrastructure, for productive capital, and this one also link. So you see, the whole thing is like telling you a story based on this mind map diagram, right? Then they show like that. Then one thing I want to highlight here is, besides very systematic, you also can use their format, the table format. Of course, format, different people may have different ideas, right? But at least you got a sample or template here. Authors, period, from what year to what year, country, dependent variable, independent variable, methodology, findings, right? You want to combine the dependent or independent variable or whatever, you can modify, but this one is actually can be one of the sample lah. As I mentioned just now, when you start to search your literature review, you just go through the title and then see the abstract and keywords only. No need to read inside one by one. Whenever you see is okay or 50-50, you set your own target, or you think, in other words, mean you save more better than save less. So you download everything because it's free, right? Without anything, it's free. Then after that, only you go and review in detail one by one. So when, let's say, you see this paper, right? Let's say you see this paper, Carly and Terwilder, right? You think it's good, so you need it. Therefore, straight away, I'll recommend that you already have this table nicely. You straight away fill in the info. Don't write first. Fill in the info first, right? Don't write first. Right? Then later on, this one, you also put a normal citation like Kelly and Vivian dot, what's the title? Later on, you can you easy for you to find back the title. You put in first. You construct this table first, then only you write your story. This one, why? Because this is the it's a, how to say, easier way to avoid we tend to copy and paste. Because if we straight away see from article and then write in our own paper, we found that, wow, the article, the sentence they construct is so nice, right? So sounds so good. So we'll try to maintain that sentence. We maintain a sentence, then we got a lot of similarity or plagiarism. In writing academic paper or thesis as well, right? Many have misconception that of course you can some journal or some institution that allow 20% of similarity. So many has misconception that this similarity better spent on literature review. Actually, it's no. This similarity that they allow is better spent on methodology, right? Methodology is super complicated. So in this case, if you are trying to do a qualitative, right, research that use regression, your similarity or your so-called copy and paste better spent on the methodology, not the literature review, right? You copy and paste the methodology, arrange you amend a bit, still got similarity. Then of course okay lah, because we have 20% or 10% margin, right? But this one is not worth to spend your 20% similarity on here, right? So how to avoid that one? You do the table first, then from the table, you construct your story. When you construct your story, after you finish writing your whole literature review part, you'll be surprised that your similarity is extremely low, right? Otherwise, you will go fall for the like this similarity cut and paste tendency. Okay? So here we continue a bit here, right? Finding C. Thing like that. Okay. Literature review actually give you another hidden advantage, right? Okay, let's say you have a paper like that, right? Now, sometimes we know that before we write the paper, we want to publish in what type of journal, right? But sometimes we don't know, right? Or when you're postgraduate study, you're required to have some publication before you can graduate. So how do you know which journal is the most suited for your paper? You have quote some of the journal here, right? Global policy. Let's say this one is just a normal qualitative paper, review of research studies, and Journal of Development Economics, International Study Quarterly. From this journal that you have quote, you try to like do a descriptive statistic. Which journal you have quote more? Let's say the academic journal you have quote inside your reference list for 5 times, right? 5 times is too much lah, right? So maybe this Journal of Economic Review have been 3 times, right? European Academic Review maybe 2 times, right? So you see which journal you have quoted around 2 to 3 times, then you can send to that journal, right? Because you are using that journal as your paper from that journal as reference. That means that journal scope is suitable for your paper to publish. You get what I mean, right? But of course, if you use let's say the academic journal for 5 times, that means you better don't send. Otherwise, the journal will not accept you because they may be accused of self-plagiarism, right? The journal self-plagiarize their own journal. So from that journal that you use as a reference, it's actually it can give you a guide on which journal that you should send your paper to. You choose some like 2 or 3. We won't use the same journal for 5 or 6 times. Usually it will be 2 or 3 times. So you choose those 2 or 3 times, right? Especially the most important one, then you can try to send to that journal. Okay. So, any questions so far before we move on? Okay. So we continue. Okay. Where is the PowerPoint slide? Okay. Yeah, we continue this one. Later on, there's another. Okay, writing literature review. As I mentioned, right? Normally for a qualitative research paper, right? We will have theoretical. We have 3 parts for literature review. In short, we have theoretical review. I mean, we talk about the theory applied inside this topic, this paper. Then we write about empirical review, and the last part is literature gap. So in your thesis or in your paper, you have three parts: theoretical review, empirical review, and then literature gap. Right? Literature gap is like it have to be matched with your research problem. You have a research problem, you have a research gap. So where do you get this research gap from? Right? You cannot say that I dream of this gap, so I put inside. Right? You get this gap from actually you review the literature. Many people have done this aspect 1, aspect 2, aspect 3, but aspect 4 not yet people done, right? Many people have done in many different countries, except for Malaysia or Asia, they are not focused on. Many people have used different method, but nobody used the non-linear method, right? But you think the non-linear method is very applicable, and then you give a justification. Therefore, when nobody done something that is important, and from the literature review gap, you can show that nobody done it. From your thorough research, you nobody done it. So in this case, it's your literature gap. So you split your literature review into theoretical, empirical, and gap, right? And of course, academic referencing now, you have to choose. If you do your thesis, then it's easier. You choose your institutional required academic referencing style. Usually in Malaysia, mostly it's APA lah. But you write a academic paper, then you'll be a bit complicated, right? Unless you determine which journal you want to send first. Otherwise, you use the APA. Maybe you want to submit to one journal, let's say Journal of Economics Development. They may use other different format. Therefore, you have to reformat your referencing style. Right? Some journal even they use a quite uncommon format. Like for example, you put 1, 2, 3 instead of you put the name. So therefore, no choice. You have to follow the journal format or follow your institutional format if you do for thesis. Okay. And what? So far, so good. Of course, this question you can try yourself. Before we end, before we finish this one, I want to show you another thing. Okay. Model 4. So we start with model 4, designing the research. Okay. Can see from here, right? Why like that? Can see from here? And okay, this model 4 actually is like a blueprint for your research, right? You choose the correct method, and then given various theoretical and technical consideration. I do mention in last week, right? The most important thing is the research gap and the objective, right? For example, you are from Setapak, you want to come to Sungalong, right? For what reason you want to go to Sungalong? I don't know. Any place also can. You don't go Sungalong, you go to Rawang, Teras also can. So in this case, for no reason, then it's not acceptable, right? So you must have a reason, right? Why? Because you have important meeting to do. So your research issue or research gap, right, we have to, and the research objective, all these are the most important. Then later on, you have to decide on your method, right? Method. But in between, you have to do a literature review to show that your topic has not been done before, or your research problem that you think is actually valid. Sometimes when you do more literature review search, you notice that there are other more interesting, much better research problem that you can work on or complement to your what you have think of, right? That means again broaden your knowledge, right? You remember not the first slide, right? Why you should do a literature review, right? But sometimes so in this case, after you settle everything, then you only consider what method is suitable, how you should do it, right? What's the theoretical that is suitable. Now, designing the research is you have understand what you trying to do, right? The nature of your research actually require you to do a primary data or secondary data, right? Primary data mean nothing, no data exists before. You are the one who collect and compile the data, so it's primary data. Secondary data is some people already compile the data, uploaded, either it's freely available or you need to pay a fees, right? Example, World Bank, all these data are freely available. When we go to data collection, that module, you have a list of data, a list of website or a data source that you can get for secondary data, right? Like World Bank, IMF, or data stream, right? Of course, data stream you need to pay. World Bank, IMF, those database you do not need to pay, right? So you need to know which one. Okay, for example, you want to know, let's say, the satisfaction of consumer, or the acceptance of consumer to e-wallet, right? So acceptance of consumer to e-wallet mostly is you won't get any secondary data unless you go to this manually workshop. Then the other people got compile their data and willing to share their data. So you use their data maybe differently from what they do in the paper. But usually this topic like consumer satisfaction, consumer perception, all these things you don't have data, so you have to use survey questionnaire. So your nature of the research do not you cannot use the second data because no nonsense. So you have to use primary data, right? So it depends. Then selecting the best method. So primary data, you have your certain field method, right? Later on we'll show you can ANOVA and COVA, then regression, and then smart structured equation modeling. Secondary data also you have some different method depend on your time series, cross section. Even though it's time series, you may need to consider certain not theory, the regression requirement. If your data is non-stationary, right, but has co-integration, then you may need to use VECM, right? So then some more, if you think the nature of your data or nature of your research, right, they have some effect from the past event. So you need to consider the past event. Though you cannot use static model, you have use dynamic model. If your data, secondary data you collected is not so many, right, few years only, you have no choice, maybe you have to use ARDL, so you have to consider based on what you want, your research, the fundamental of your research require you to use what type of data, and then from the data itself, which method is best suit. Okay? If you do more and more, then you'll come back. You can easy. They got one module is collecting data. That one you go to more detail on that one. Okay. Understanding the research design. So you design the plan on the research study will be completed, right? So what is the consideration? What's the research type? Usually in this case, we will do for inquiry, like determinant of what research type, target population and data. Here, right? Some of the common problem is, for example, you want to say the perception of consumer to what's it electronic bank or e-bank, perception of consumer to e-bank. So a case study in Malaysia. You put a case study in Malaysia, I mean your research or your paper, the population cover Malaysia, whole Malaysia, from Perlis to Johor, and then include Sabah and Sarawak. So if you say in Malaysia, that means you have to get representative from all over Malaysia. Otherwise, you only get from Klang Valley, then or Kampar only. Then in this case, it's not considered as Malaysia, right? Or some more words, maybe your lecturer, you ask your student to fill out the survey, right? So Utah student all fill out the survey. So you say in Malaysia. Then Utah student who study here, maybe they are from different state lah. But again, population in terms of age-wise, is not distributed equally. So you have to have target population. Therefore, yeah, I would suggest that you be specific. If you want to do like perception of consumer on e-banks, right? A case study in maybe Selangor or Klang Valley, or even do a case study in Sabah, right? Something like that, be more specific so that your population scope will be reduced, right? Therefore, your objective and constraint, you also consider your objective and constraint. If your objective is to study the dynamic effect of certain thing, then you cannot use static. I got do one study, I believe that different level income inequality will give you different reaction. Make it simple, like if a country is very, very poor, their main objective or the most important thing for me for them is survival, right? If the country is super rich, right, highly developed country, so maybe institutional quality is more important. But if for a country like super poor, institutional quality may not be the important. Maybe foreign direct investment is more important. So you see different level of uh, or income level of this country, then you give you different relationship between variable. So therefore, based on this theoretical requirement, the method, normal regression method, you cannot use, because normal regression method, they give you only one number. That means one overall relationship. But your theory or your objective, right, or your research gap you test is, many people just claim that income and XYZ variable determinant of income or determinant of growth, XYZ. But for you, it's different level of income, give you different level of relationship. Therefore, you have to use a quantile regression. And only that method can suit your objective and can suit your to solve your research problem. So you have to depend on each of the requirement, right? Of course, different topic you have a very different objective and different requirement. But again, you still have other modules that will cover more detail on that one. Okay. Adequate to obtain valid, objective, and accurate answer to research question is objective. So your research design, right, should be able to answer your research objective. To make it simple, assume that you have a very good research issue, right? And what you mean good research issue? Mean there is a problem, and this problem is important not only to yourself or to your friend, it's important to your country, your community, or it's better is to the whole world, right? Maybe you have a water disruption problem in your area, right? So if you say water disruption problem in the area, or wastage in your area, so it's basically to your community, right? Or you have malnutrition among your community, maybe or in a rural area or whatever, so among your community, or inequality, income inequality is a general whole country problem. So it's important. So assume you have an issue, then you formulate certain objective. You break your issue to certain small part, preferable 3 objective. If for primary data, usually we prefer 5 objective, right? So then you have your whole research design, data, everything to match all these objectives and to answer your research issue. Okay? Now, developing the model, we take primary data first. Primary data usually means survey, questionnaire, right? You form a questionnaire, you get a survey, right? Again, the more detail on how to do a survey, right? We have a later topic on data collection later on. You'll notice in the schedule, right? So for primary data, your model should cover descriptive and inferential statistics. For secondary data, still also the same, descriptive and inferential statistics, right? Descriptive statistics here in this case mean mean, median, mode, standard deviation, or any other thing. But these 4 are the most common one, right? Of course, you can present your descriptive statistic in a different way. Again, we'll cover more detail in the data module, right? Data collection module. Then inferential statistics mean you try to get some information from the statistic, like hypothesis testing, right? You try to infer, right? Confidence interval, right? Similar for secondary data, right? Only that you use different method, right? So then, of course, how you go through the inference statistic, for primary data, you can use ANOVA, ANCOVA, MANCOVA. You see, it's a little bit different only. Later, I'll show you the appendix for M41, appendix M4B module number 4 and number 1, right? There's a website actually show a very good detail on what is different between ANOVA, ANCOVA, MANCOVA. They give you also very good example, right? Of course, the appendix, I will show you the link there. Then you can use your primary data the survey you collected, you do a regression, right? SPSS, all this can do a regression, or you do a structural equation modeling, will be a more dynamic, right? Nowadays, we go towards the structural equation modeling for primary data rather than regression, because structural equation modeling, there are more advantage lah. You notice that developing the model for secondary data is about the same for the first two. You got this, first the description and the inferential statistic, right? How are you going to do the inferential statistic? In this case, we usually use regression, right? Regression in secondary data, there are variety type of regression, right? Usually, you study degree in apply statistic or apply econometrics, right? You have the whole degree program studying on this one, right? That's why you cannot cover too much. Generally, regression, you have static and dynamic. Static mean what? Static mean on that particular point. If you are familiar with accounting, right? Balance sheet is how many assets you have, how many liability you have, right? How many capital you have, right? On that particular date, 31st of December, let's say end of the year, at that particular date. But income statement, you see the flow of money, you see it for a period of time. But here, static in this case mean at that particular, static mean, how to say, your past will not affect the current. But in statistic, your past cannot affect the current. That means your past can affect the current. We'll give another more practical explanation is like, for example, if we are all a student, let's say we all are student, okay? This semester we take 5 paper. Let's say paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, paper 5. Right? We take exam for paper 1 already. After we go to exam, we do try our best, and then after that, we find that the paper 1 exam is super difficult. Most likely we are going to fail. Right? Now the question is, if your performance, I mean extremely bad performance on the first paper, most likely will fail, affected your next paper or not? If this paper performance affected your next paper, then it's dynamic. If you say never mind lah, first paper pass or fail also never mind, because I cannot do anything. So I try to focus as usual to study for my second paper. Then in this case, first paper result or expected result will not affect your next paper. In this case, you do a static, right? So for example, inflation. Usually past last year inflation will affect this year inflation, right? Or sustainable development, your achievement of sustainable development last year will affect this year. Or institutional quality, sometimes, like for example, if a country are doing very well, progressing very well, cannot be the next year extremely bad, then another year extremely good, then another year extremely bad, right? So what you do last year or last few years will affect this year or coming year. In this case, it's dynamic regression, right? But most nowadays, if you want to publish in a good journal paper, you usually do both lah, right? Do both. Right? So static and dynamic, you also have time series or panel. Right? Time series, they mean like cover last week, just many years, one country, or many years, one firm. Panel mean many years, many firm. Right? Non-linear regression, now not now already famous many years ago. Sometime only static or normal regression, you notice that the model like y equal to constant plus x1, x2, beta 1, x1, beta 2, x2, beta 3, x3, right? You only have one beta. Maybe beta 1 for x1, beta 2 for x2, beta 3 for x3. This beta mean what? This beta actually mean, let's say beta 1, x1, this beta 1 actually represent the aggregate or overall relationship between the y and the x. One only, right? But there are some problem there. When the x go up, the y also go up. But when the x go down, the y may not go down as much, or the y may even stay up, right? So in this case, x increase and x decrease will give you a different beta 1. So you may have beta 1a, beta 1b, beta 1 up and beta 1 down, right? So you may have this relationship, or we call go up like a rocket, go down like a feather. Usually apply to price increase, right? if petrol price increase, then or during Chinese New Year or whatever, petrol price increase, right? You see the price increase a lot and very fast. So when the petrol price decrease, the price will not decrease as much or as fast. So you go up like a rocket, the price shoot up like a rocket. But when the petrol price drop, you notice that those seller were not willing to just drop a bit. So you come down so slowly and so lightly like a feather. So in this case, you need a non-linear regression. And again, which one you need depends on your objective, depends on your research problem, what you want to achieve, right? So differently. Which model, selecting the best model, which model can answer your research question? So the best model is that can answer your research question. There's no such thing that, oh, my econometric model is not as good as yours, right? Oh, your economic modeling is so complicated, that means it's very good, right? So as long as you can answer your research question, then it's a good model, right? Of course, technical consideration, like I said before, if you have a non-stationary or you have a autocorrelation issue or you have a heterogodicity issue, right? All this econometric issue or theoretical issue I mentioned, that if your theory or you want to prove that this price and petrol price and inflation relationship are actually not a linear relationship. Like it's go up like a rocket and come down like a feather. So theoretically consideration, you have to use the non-linear already, right? Well, I mentioned that growth theory, maybe growth theory mentioned that when you have a low level of growth compared to a high level of growth, your relationship with independent variable is different, right? For example, when you are poor, right, your relationship with your friend is different. When you are rich, your relationship with your friend are different, right? Maybe when you rich, your friend like you. When you're poor, your friend don't like you, right? So in this case, you cannot use a normal regression. You have to use other type of regression. So you have to have you have to consider what econometrically requirement, stationary, see, or not stationary, and then theoretical. But most important thing is the model you choose must be able to answer your research question, or in other words, mean fulfill your research objective. Okay. So fast. Wait, I share with you another things. Okay, if I just take this paper, one of my paper, right? Does government and institutional quality matter to sustainable development goal? So here, sustainable development goal is your dependent variable. Can see, right? Dependent variable mean what? The variable are affected by other. I mean, other variable actually can affect them. So what's the independent variable is government and institutional quality. Okay, you recall the first two model, right? Institutional quality is a concept. We need to have a proxy for institutional quality. Okay, institutional quality commonly they only have two. They have more than two actually. They have many proxy. For example, the most widely used is worldwide governance indicator. This one. This worldwide governance indicator, this one, right, have 6 different components. Beside this worldwide governance indicator, you have also IC, Institutional Credit Risk Guide. But that one, you need to pay a lot of money for it. Beside this view, sometimes you also use just Transparency International, the Transparency Index, Corruption Perception Index, Economic Freedom Index. So you see, if you use Economic Freedom Index, you assume economic freedom as a proxy for institutional quality. But for me, economic freedom is just one part of the institutional economic quality. So institutional quality is the concept, but you use what indicator to represent this concept? So I use worldwide governance indicator, because worldwide governance indicator got 6 components. All these 6 components cover everything, include corruption, economic freedom, democracy, right? property rights, all these things they cover inside. Then government in this case, you have a lot, right? Input when you say government, you more likely on the Keynesian school of thought versus the classic school of thought. Okay, here these are the indicators that are represent for government. Now, let's say let we use this one. Okay. What is the theoretical consideration? What is the technical consideration? What is the best method used? Okay. So, okay, one by one. Okay. Here, you notice that first, I try to highlight that the concept of sustainable development, write like a story, right? A story, right? They use can see or not? Put higher. By the time I write this one, there's not much people or no people, in fact, use the Sustainable Development Goal Index as a proxy for sustainable development, right? They use variety of proxy, including mostly including like forest and sea, carbon dioxide emission, right? Some are environment accounting, then green production, then all these small things, right? As a proxy for accurate development, sustainable development. Of course, because sustainable development is a concept. So, for example, I have another paper also use carbon dioxide to proxy for sustainable development. Some they use so-called environment accounting as a proxy for sustainable development. So can, right? But here I write a story claim that all these proxy are just a part of the sustainable development. So you should use a more general term or more holistic term. And in this case, Sustainable Development Goal Index is the best because it's an official index from the United Nations to specifically measure the achievement of the SDG goal by each country, right? So it's an official index, right? And it's matched with the SDG goal, which many countries actually want to achieve, right? So you see the right thing here is like a storytelling, right? Then methodology-wise, you explain. Later we do it later on. Next time we do focus on the review. Okay. So here there are some concept. Okay. So theory or concept, we focus on classic school. Well, of course, you have growth. Classic school will tell you that everything is automatically good. Right? When you have growth, the benefit of growth will trickling down to everything, will automatically help you to achieve sustainable development. Right? So you believe the classic school is good, any capital investment, when you wish to go for sustainable development, they will automatically help you to promote sustainable development, right? But for Keynesian, it's not, right? Classic school price mechanism is not always 100% automatic good, right? So you need government intervention. Government intervention usually is through a government lead growth theory, right? I mean, government is the one who are leading the growth. For those developing countries, including Malaysia, you see the budget, right? Wise, right? In economics, you have Y equal to C plus I plus G. That means your output consists of consumer spending, investment spending or firm spending, and government spending, right? So the government spending part for developing country is highly important, right? If government spend less, the economic growth will be jeopardized, right? You need the government to spend. So if this is the case, right, is the government spending help to sustain sustainable development or not? Maybe the more the government spend, the more debt they incur, then the more is unsustainable. Or the government actually spend on production that actually pollute the environment, cause inequality, cause other aspect of unsustainable development. Right? So all this part on this proxy are proxy for the role of government. Then institutional economics, of course, you have this institutional economics theory who claim that when you have a system, right, then this system will help you to achieve things. For example, Malaysia and Singapore, right? We are the same. In fact, Singapore are part of Malaysia. Then when Singapore separated from Malaysia, some will wonder that why Singapore can develop so fast and so good while Malaysia cannot. And we have mostly everything the same, culture, everything the same, but maybe institutional problem. Of course, here you mentioned a more sensitive thing like corruption, inefficiency of the government, all these are institution. But a more systematic way is you use the worldwide governance indicator. Worldwide governance indicator, you have 6 components. So from these 6 components, each of them represent one part of the institutional quality: voice and accountability, political stability, right, government effectiveness, regulation, right. That's why I say some studies or past literature, if you search, they use the control of corruption only, or they use the transparency index, or they use the economic freedom. I mean, if you use economic freedom, it's mostly like one part only, one out of the 6 component of institutional quality based on WGI. Okay? So therefore, you try to use an indicator that best represent the concept that you want to highlight. Here, the concept is institutional quality. So based on institutional economic school of thought, then you justify that you use the worldwide governance indicator as compared to past literature who use only transparency index, who use only economic freedom index, who use only institutional rights index or whatever, right? So you see the story is like that, right? How you construct your literature review. This one, okay? The model, okay? Okay, so here you have theoretical consideration. Then here you notice that I use quantile. Here, of course, I will also justify that the data may, based on the scattered plot and the Shapiro will test, the data might not be normal. So if your data is not normal, statistically requirement, right? Technical requirement that you cannot use regression that assume normal distribution. Quantile is not a normal distribution, right? Then of course, scattered plot, you notice that also sometimes you see it's not so graying. Like for example, got one part on top here. Sometimes you see that one part on top here, you can draw. Here you may draw one line, but you may have draw 2 lines. Some are very glaring that you can draw 2 lines to represent it. But the theoretical consideration is when the country are actually achieving a very or currently at a very low sustainable development goal achievement compared to some country with a very high sustainable development achievement, the relationship is different, right? Relationship between different. For example, if you're at a very low development, growth will be very important, right? Once you have growth, then you are good at everything. But when you already achieve a very high sustainable development, maybe institutional quality is more important, right? Or compared to you are in the middle thing. So that's why here the theoretical consideration is important for you to select the best model, everything. Okay. Any question so far? When you done your chapter 1 or part 1 of your paper or chapter 1 of your thesis, right? Then mostly chapter 1 is on the whole framework, including most important, including they will have a research issue, right? It's an important thing that merit your further research. Then you have a research gap. Then you have your formulate your research objective. Your research objective, of course, have to be specific, measurable, right? And then, of course, many other things include time bound, right? You cannot have a research objective that you need 5 years to achieve, right? So you will not wait to write what 5 year one paper in 5 years, right? Your each of department will ask you why you this year didn't publish. Then after 5 years only you publish, right? Or this is also you cannot wait for 5 years to finish. So we have to time bound everything, right? Then later on, right, you have to do your literature review. From here, you see step by step is 1 and then to 2, but usually you go here forth and back. When you do your literature review, you may notice that you may need to amend some of your objective, right? Your research issue maybe unfortunately has been done and answered, right? Your objective has been done and answered by some other past literature few years ago. So unfortunately, you have to change your topic and change or modify your research objective. Okay? Or you may find different or compatible. You may want to modify your research objective or research issue based on the new thing, the new literature they can search. And of course, theoretical support, right? You may broaden your knowledge on theoretical support through the past paper. You can Google, like example, X and Y relationship theory. So you can Google ChatGPT, then they give you some theory. But when you key the research the keyword and you get the literature, past literature, you notice that most of them, or at least some of them, they do give you their theoretical justification, their theoretical review. Right? So from there, you see whether you think the theory that's suitable is suitable or not, or there are others more suitable, more appropriate theory that you can use. Right? So literature review actually well complement a lot for your chapter 1, right? But of course you do the literature review, you consume a lot of time, right? A lot of work from searching, downloading, right? Download. For my practice is I identify the keyword. Of course, you based on this very systematic search. You also need to identify your scope, right? Your string, your keyword, what database you want to use, right? You want to use Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, my site, right? Or you just search. Right? So when you search, you try to search in a more general way, right? For example, just now the article, you cannot search like government expenditure, government plot, and government debt, and growth, and institutional quality, and sustainable development. You put so many and then you come out number of match equal to 0. Right? You try to search general first, then later you might be a little bit more specific. You think you search too general, they come out macam-macam that's not relevant. Then you can try to redefine your string to be more specific. Right? Of course, the year, try to search about 5 or 6 years, the most recent article, right? Most recent article. Then, what if you have a correct, or you have a productive search, then you will get a lot of outcome. I mean, you'll get a lot of journal listed out. You maybe 10,000 or 20,000. So what I do is, you can sort if relevant. Right? You just read the title. You think the title is okay, then you click open the file and you try to download it. Right? Some journal cannot be downloaded. Some journal can be downloaded. Some journal is based on subscription. Preferable not to pay because you need maybe a lot of journal. Then unless you have a lot of money, right? So for those who can be downloaded, usually I will use the journal paper name or part of the journal paper name, because you've saved the file name. You cannot save too long the name. Otherwise, next time when you open, the file name suddenly become corrupted, right? Or sometimes you got this dot like a a case study in Malaysia. So the dot one that usually I will put underscore, right? Dot cannot be used as a file name. So I'll copy the topic, the title of the paper name as my file name. Some suggest that you copy the author as your file name, because when you do your citation that time, you put the author, then it's easy for you to link back to that file, right, to the paper. But for the first time, it's better for you to copy the paper title name as a file name, so that you can see, easy to remember. Then you download everything. You just download everything as long as you think it's a bit relevant, or you may 50-50 chance you need it, then you just download because it's free, right? You end up maybe download 50 to 100 paper. Then after that, maybe you take a break, or you take one day break. Then you sit down and then you run through the paper one by one. After that, you have the table, right? I show you last time the topic table. You go and have this table. You construct this table first. We already where already you got the table, you construct the table first, then you do the write up based on the table. Wait, I show you that table. You construct in a table format first, right? You like that, right? Write in. You can of course modify this table. Then after you think it's sufficient enough, then based on this table, you construct your story. right? Literature review is not cut and paste. Take these two sentences, paste in, modify the sentence a bit so that it will not detect by the turn it in, right? And then cut and paste like this. A, B, C, actually talk about this one, Grandjon talk about this one talk about this one, G talk about this one, what method. It's not like a summary or a cut and paste with modification or one by one. It's like a storytelling, right? Just your storytelling is not from you, not from your dream, it's from other paper, or we call other literature. Therefore, you just cite that particular part of the your story to recognize that original author. Remember, it's like a storytelling. It's not like cut and paste. Okay. So for my experience, every journal paper or every institutional thesis, you are given a leeway of similarity. They won't expect your similarity is equal to 0 because it's ours were, right? And for or whatever technical name, right, is also considered as similarity. So they will give you about 20%. As far as I see, generally they will give you 20%. So this similarity 20%, don't spend it on literature review. Many people think that this 20% similarity is best spent on literature review. Just like you have 20 ringgit, where should you spend it? You don't spend it on chapter 2 or literature review. You spend it on a methodology, because methodology is hardly for you to like rephrase lah, because it's very technical term. Those who have published before, it's very technical term. You cannot rephrase. You say, I like coffee, I prefer coffee, I love coffee, coffee is my favorite drink, then you can rephrase very easily. But technical term, auto-regressive distribution lag, you're gonna say that automatically past related method and past event model. Then people don't know what is that, right? So your chapter 3 will actually eat up a lot of your similarity. So this one, you have to do it in a story form, preferable to put in a table. Then from the table, only you write your story. In this case, with this method, your plagiarism will greatly reduce. You just believe me, right? Then, of course, later on, you have to design your method, your model, right? Design model was also covered in chapter 1. What data you need depend on your nature of your research, right? Some research are mostly finding data. Again, there's no this method is better than that method. Your method is better than my method, or my method is better than his method, right? So as long as that method can solve your objective, can answer your objective, then it's a good method, right? Sometimes OLS, just ordinary square, right? It's very, very simple. Then it is not subject to no heteroscedasticity, no autocorrelation, nothing, everything perfect, then it's okay. It's acceptable. But only the problem is sometimes it's human perception. You want to publish in good journal, you present the best method also may not be useful. You have to present different method. For example, you have to do a static and a dynamic as a comparison, as a robustness test, right? Or you have to do slightly more just to impress, right? Of course, different objective lah, right? If you are required to do more, then it's okay, right? But as long as you remember, method that can solve your research problem is good. It's like a saying that any cat that can catch the mouse is a good cat. You don't care what cat they are, big or small, or what color they are. As long as you can catch the mouse, then it's a good cat. Good cat. As long as your method can answer your research objective, then it's a good model. Okay. So detail the plan. Of course, you consider your scope, right? All this thing, no? Dynamic, what type of regression you do, secondary data, right? Theoretical consideration, technical consideration. Okay.